Welcome.
Attention, please.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome to the No Comfort Zone podcast. It's time to get out of your comfort zone and live on purpose. Broadcasting to the world from Rockford, Illinois. This is your wake-up call.
Warning.
You are the solutions to all your problems. Stop thinking average. Become the hero version of yourself. Every day, every time, without fail, no exceptions. It all matters. You've entered the No Comfort Zone. It's time for a reality check.
All right, so here's where we're at with this podcast today. For all of you sales warriors out there, for all your people who are trying to get to the next level in sales, I'm going to lay some stuff down, so hopefully you'll pick it up. Because the whole idea is about this. You want to persuade people to get them out of their own way so that they can help themselves. Sales is a very ethical thing. And what I mean by that is you cannot get out of ethics when you're selling. If you're put into a position and somebody asks you questions, that's where the sale begins. You need to make sure that you are well prepared, which is part of your sales ethics. What does that mean? Listen, you know that you're going to meet somebody today that's going to want to buy your products or services or whatever you do. You have to understand that there's a dialogue going on and there's certain word tracks that need to be said on a regular basis to get the customer to the next step of the process, whatever that is. And it's astonishing to me that there's people out there that are in this industry that have been in this industry for a long time and don't understand the power of questioning and what that means when it comes to closing deals. I'm astonished. Like I was brought up like I never wanted to be a salesperson in my life because when I was younger, I thought salespeople were pushy, rude, and obnoxious, liars and cheaters. That's what I actually thought. Why? Because that was my upbringing. Now I spent my whole life trying to find out what it's like to become an ethical salesperson. I teach an ethical sales process. I actually teach ethical leadership. What does that mean? That doesn't mean being the nicest guy in the room and not being pushy. There's a difference of perspective when it comes to being pushy and when it comes to being unprofessional. I do believe in being persuasive. That's part of what we need to be doing as salesperson. I'll talk about some of that stuff in a minute. But more importantly, remember this. You're persuasive. That's what it's all about. And how do you become persuasive? You do it with what I would call a very confrontational approach. And I don't mean being obnoxious and being a jerk when it comes to selling. What I mean is this. It's super simple. You want to edify your customer by acknowledging their questions. When they ask you a question, it's time for you to ask more questions, but don't be an idiot like in the 40-Year-Old Virgin, the movie with Steve Carell. You know, when he's trying to hit on the girl in the library or the bookstore, he's like, whatever you do, man, just ask her another question, which is highly effective when it comes to getting involved in having a banter with a girl. It's highly effective. But when it comes to salesmanship, you want to be professional. You don't, when you do this in the boy-girl situation, he goes into the shop and he's like, so can I help you find anything? And he's like, I don't know. Can you help me find anything? And she's like, that's so obnoxious. It's kind of funny. He's so cocky, right? And in case you want to read one of the best books ever, read the book called The Game. I think it's been banned in 47 countries. But The Game is a book from, I think his name, Neil Strauss, wrote the book. And it's about basically speed seduction and how to pick up women really fast using indicators of interest, body language, and certain, the science of picking up girls, basically. And it's a really good book because it helps with sales, and that's the reason why I bet it. Hint, I used almost every other chapter on my wife, and I got her. That's what the book's all about, finding your soulmate. But I digress, because this isn't a book about picking up chicks, or a podcast about picking up chicks. This is one about selling, and I'll tie it all together in just a minute. I'm so passionate about persuasive selling techniques and the best way to go about doing it because I've seen the magic happen where somebody comes in, a customer, with a problem, with a genuine concern, with what Tony Robbins would call an emotional wound. And when you find out what that emotional wound is, what you need to do as the professional salesperson is you need to acknowledge that there's a wound there, an emotional wound, whatever it is, whatever they're looking to do, whatever the reason why they're there, and you have to ask the question, Brainiac. That's exactly what you need to do, is you need to ask what brings you in here today, and why are you here now? It's okay to confront somebody that way without interrogation. But now when you get to this point when you're actually dealing with a face-to-face customer and they mention something to you or ask you some sort of a buying question, how much is it? What's the warranty? How does one take delivery of that? How many people are buying this? What does Consumer Reports say about it? Whatever questions they start asking you, it's time for you to get on your A game and ask questions, because the best closers I've ever met, and I've met some of the best closers, even probably worked with the number one closer on planet Earth. I worked for the guy for about 9 months, Grant Cardone. I'm telling you right now, the best thing to do is ask questions. And one of the best questions I heard the other day, he was doing a quick thing. I think I saw it on LinkedIn or Twitter. I don't remember which one. I think the guy's brilliant. He's the real deal. If you really want to learn ethical sales trainings, hit him up. There's a lot to get through to go through all of his stuff, but I'll tell you what, I learned a lot. I've been seeing him since 1996. I've been going to his seminars, read all of his books, been through multiple sales training seminars, and it was one of the highest points in my life to actually work with Grant Cardone for the short time period. Again, had some personal stuff I had to deal with, so I had to bow out of that relationship, but I learned a lot from the guy, and I'll tell you what, super great guy from my point of view, and I think that matters because it's my podcast. But the best closers, what they do is they ask really good questions. Like this one I just saw him ask the other day. It's like somebody's like, I work 60 hours a week, and Grant said, well, what are you doing, man? Are you bragging? Or are you complaining? Because I'm not sure. You're always asking the question to close the person to the next step. So in a sales, why is that important to you? There's a thing that I'm required all my salespeople and managers to ask all the people that they deal with on a regular basis. The big question is this. Here it is. Do you want to learn how to sell anything to anybody? You know what? When they ask a question, can I ask you a question in return? Here's what you ask. Hey, what's most important to you about that? Could you explain a little bit more? Okay, I think I can understand what you're saying. Is there anything else you want to add? It's 3 really good questions that'll get the customer talking to let you know it's truly really important to them. Does that make sense? So whether you're in a relationship, whether you're selling something, whatever it is, when you're talking to somebody, as simple as, what I'm looking for in my next guy, they're going to tell you what they're looking for. And can I ask you something? Is that what's really important to you? What's most important to you about that being in your next relationship? Could you explain why? Here's a hint. If you've ever worked with me and you work with me for a little bit, I ask questions that I already know the answer to. But what I want to do is I want to clarify that I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't want to assume anything in a sales. It's too important to assume something. You know that thing about the assumption? There's even a thing called the assumption close. You can assume it in some cases. You can assume it when all the things line up. But if you don't have your 10 foundations, your 10 pillars of yes, what are you doing? You can't assume anything at that point. Yeah, people use it because they're afraid to ask for the business. And that's what I want to close on. You need to not be afraid when you get into the close, when you need to do this, whether it's you're going to ask for a raise, ask for the girl's hand, ask for the guy's hand, ask for your other part's hand to be politically correct in this society that we're in today. Whatever is true for you. You're going to have the ability to confront, and you're going to have to ask questions. And sometimes those questions that you ask might not be the easiest questions to ask, but they're going to prove to be a very fruitful result. The last thing you want to do is waste your time with somebody that's not interested in buying. And the last thing you want to do is waste your life with somebody who's not really interested, but they think you're clever and cute and they're going to stay with you for a minute. Life's too short for all that. So I guess what I would say in this podcast, because somebody hit me up on a DM and said, you know what, you mentioned a lot about sales training and sales management. I speak a lot about it. And in my day job, it's what I do all day long. I come over here and I talk about personal growth and personal development, and I talk about depression. I talk about getting woken up. I talk about all these other crazy things that go on, because I do believe this is the stuff that I talk about here that helps you when you get back into your own life and when you disconnect from the podcast. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to enhance your life so that you can become a better version of yourself, so that you can become the hero version of yourself, so that you can solve the problems for the people around you. Guess how you do that? It's all through salesmanship. I hope this podcast was congruent. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want more salesmanship and stuff like that, I'll gladly talk about it. But more importantly, here's what I want you to do. I want you to start living a little bit more, start risking a little bit more. And what I really want you to do is get outside of your comfort zone and live on purpose.
Say goodbye.
Want more of the No Comfort Zone? You can follow Dan on Instagram and Twitter at NoComfortZone1.
Bye.
Or on the web at thenocomfortzone.com.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the No Comfort Zone podcast.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.